Before we started dating, I would never cook at the house. Now we cook at the house all the time. But before that, my fridge was just eggs, butter, and it's like leftover Taco Bell or Chinese food.
No!
Yeah.
I'm Dalia Colon, and this is The Zest. Citrus, seafood, Spanish flavor, and Southern charm. The Zest celebrates cuisine and community in the Sunshine State. Today, meet a Tampa couple who were brought together by, what else? Food. Today, we're continuing our Couples in the Kitchen series with the ultimate foodie duo. Melissa Santell is a well-known Tampa food photographer, culinary marketing consultant, and host of the podcast Sunday Sauce. Her partner, Bryce Bonsack, is chef-owner of the Michelin-starred Rocca Italian restaurant in Tampa Heights. I sat down with Melissa and Bryce in their living room to learn about the elaborate meal they cooked together on one of their first dates, what they ate as kids, and advice for couples hosting a dinner party.
How did we meet? Actually, the very first time we met, I was hired from Creative Loafing to come cover the article that was covering Rocca's opening, so 4 years ago. And I was there shooting all of the new menu items and got one of the first tastes probably of Rocca.
Yeah, the food critic did their review, and then before they do the review, they typically send the photographer, which whom they hired Melissa. So that's when we first met. She did a really good job of keeping in touch with me through the dark years of COVID. She did a photo shoot of me holding a bunch of ducks. I'm pretty sure I looked like an idiot, but she did her best to not make that be the case.
Yeah, that was for the Photographic Museum of Arts in downtown Tampa. They had this whole chef and culinary exhibit, and they had reached out to me and they were like, hey, do you have anyone you want to submit? And I was like, I do. So yeah, that was the first time I saw the behind the scenes aging process of the ducks. Bryce brought a couple of them out, was holding them just like in the kitchen. It was very cool.
So then what happened? This sounds like a Hallmark movie.
Then she had asked me a little while later to go on her podcast on Sunday Sauce. We hung out for a couple hours afterward, had a couple glasses of wine, and then down the road, I realized I drastically needed help with our entire branding and our social media, and I reached out to her. And one thing led to another after that, I think. So eventually I decided we started hanging out, cooking dinner together, and one thing led to another. So.
Oh my gosh, do you remember the first meal you cooked together?
Well, one of the first meals that we had together outside of work, I guess, was my cousin Bianca and I invited Bryce over for dinner to her house. And at the time, I lived in a tiny one-bedroom apartment. Bianca has a house. She was like, let's just cook for Bryce here. And Bianca and I cook all the time together. And so we were petrified to cook for him. It's like you're cooking for an incredible chef and, you just don't know what could happen, right? So we made chicken parm. Our chicken cutlet game is really strong. So we were like, we're going to pull this out. All the stops out for Bryce. And then he ended up bringing some really incredible wines, and then we made mozzarella as well at the house. We brought all the gear.
Mozzarella. Okay, that's a long date. You made mozzarella. So that's not a coffee date. That's I'm hanging out with you for a while.
Yeah, mozzarella was required to make the chicken parm, and we happened to make a lot of mozzarella at Rocca. So I said, why don't we just bring some over and take it from there? So not to sound too bougie, but it made sense to just, rather than just buying the Belgioso from Publix. Nothing wrong with that too, but.
Yeah, it was in true us fashion. Can't buy it store-bought, have to make a fresh mozzarella for this at-home dinner. But yeah, it ended up being really fun. And then the second time we hung out, of course, Bryce was like, so it's your guys' turn to come to my house and I'll make dinner for you guys, which was, of course, the treat of the century, Do
you remember what you made, Bryce?
I don't remember. It was some sort of weird take on Thai food or something. I can't remember. Some grilled pork and sticky rice and some green papaya salad. And I think there was a tom kha soup with crab.
And Creme brulee.
Yeah, we were too drunk to remember the creme brulee.
You guys have such a good memory because, like, I remember the restaurant where my husband and I had our first date, but I don't remember what I ate. I don't remember the first thing I cooked for him. So I guess, well, you guys are foodies, and we alluded to your podcast. We have to talk about your podcast. Tell us about Sunday Sauce.
Ooh, okay. So Sunday Sauce, I really started Sunday Sauce as a passion project. I was starving for something fun to do outside of work that I could really connect with people and share their stories and, you know, just build my culinary network. And so it all started just of that, just for something for fun. And then it pretty quickly snowballed into something that I took so seriously, and now it's very professional, right? So in true Melissa fashion. But yeah, it's been a really great platform to help elevate and share other people's stories. And I've really enjoyed meeting all the people that I've had the ability to connect with through it.
I love it. It's so great. How long have you two been a couple, can I ask?
We're at 6 months now.
Yeah,
More or
6
less.
months.
Time flies by.
Aw.
I know.
Good answer. Good boyfriend. I want to go back. What did the two of you each eat growing up?
My mom and dad cooked a lot at the house. You know, we went to restaurants occasionally. We traveled a lot, so they were always inspoed by some of our trips and stuff like that, and try to replicate some of the food that we had. But we lived up in Odessa, which is where her parents live too. So there was, you know, we would try to cook a lot at the house. My parents weren't like fantastic cooks, but neither of them were really coming from a food background at all. So they were like basically self-taught in everything they did. And yeah, we ate well, much better than most of my friends growing up. And there wasn't a particular cuisine or anything like that. My mom she's Colombian, so, you know, lots of black beans and rice and pork chops and that kind of thing would always be growing up. But yeah. That's what I can remember the most.
Nice. And this is so different from mine, because mine was a lot of like Hamburger Helper and rice.
Oh, we had that too. Don't get me wrong, and I love that stuff.
The 80s and 90s. And what about you, Melissa?
I mean, I too was a 90s kid, so my parents had all of that in the rotation. But I would say my mom, you could expect to have at least like some chicken francese, pasta vajol was always in the rotation, chicken cutlets, chicken parm, baked ziti, Sunday sauce. And I grew up in New York, so, you know, during the winter seasons, we always were eating homemade soups and stews and all the good stuff.
What is Sunday sauce, and did the two of you make it together?
Funny you should ask. We recently made a Sunday sauce, and it was like Sunday sauce on steroids, because it was like Sunday sauce a la Bryce. But Sunday sauce is so interesting because it has so many different variations depending on who's making it and where your family comes from. And some people have different names for it. Like some people call it gravy, which I hate.
Bryce is giving it the thumbs down. Okay, so Bryce, what did you put in the sauce to Bryceify it?
I mean, I kind of followed her. I'm not Italian American. This comes to a shock to many people when I tell them that I'm 0% Italian. And we don't cook a lot of Italian American food at Rocca. But that being said, like, if you don't love a red sauce joint or chicken parm or that kind of thing, then I don't know what to do for you. But I think we browned some sausage from Cacciatore & Sons, which is a great local Italian grocery butcher shop around the corner. It took some pork ribs as well, roasted those off, and then took some, I think we had some short ribs in there too, some beef short ribs.
We did. Mm-hmm.
And then a little garlic, some tomato paste, cooked it down, then a little bit of tomato passata, which is just pureed canned tomatoes, preferably the good kind.
What's the good kind?
I think we have Bianca di Napoli, is a brand that you can find. I think Whole Foods has it, but that's from California. And then I think we have Cento as well, and Alessi in the house. So there's a rotation going on. Yeah, don't skimp on your canned tomatoes. Don't buy Hunt's if you can avoid it.
Don't do it.
Just spend an extra $1.50 or so and get better brands. It's worth it. Canned tomatoes are delicious. Let's be real.
Listen, and you need to get the whole peeled tomatoes and then blend them yourself. You know, bonus points.
Don't buy the tomato puree.
Yeah, don't buy the puree. Don't buy the sauce that's already sauced, so to speak.
Or chopped or whatever.
Or chopped or whatever.
Just buy a stick blender if you need to.
An immersion blender is the key. Yeah, you can even make whipped cream with it, which I feel like is a secret weapon. It's just like you can use it for so many things. Soups, dressing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just buy one for
I think
myself.
I use it probably more than most pieces of equipment in our kitchen.
Yeah. My favorite ones are the industrial sized ones. You know, in my parents' restaurant, they
the one that
make so much sauce every day, and they're just like the size of me. You know,
Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get myself one of those. Now, are you doing this type of cooking every night?
No.
Like, what did you eat for dinner last night? Today is Thursday.
I was working.
So a Wednesday night, what do you eat?
The other night we cooked clam chowder. We've been making a lot of soup around the house lately. We did clam chowder. We got some clams. We steamed those off with a little bit of stock and garlic. Mm-hmm. And then chowder is basically you just, cook down some bacon, some leek, onion, garlic, parsnip, shallot, celery, and potatoes, a little bit of chicken stock and the clam stock that you get, and a little bit of cream and flour, and that's it.
You make it sound so easy.
That's his like specialty, making things sound so easy. We also added scallops in it, which was really good. But last night, he wasn't here, and I had Ben & Jerry's half-baked ice cream for dinner.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, this is the life we live. Sometimes we cook awesome dinners. Other times I have a girl dinner, specifically when I'm alone.
We do a pretty good job cooking at the house. We also like to go out to eat, so we've been out to, I think, Bar Torrey now about 12 times in the last 4 weeks. So.
Yeah, it's a sickness.
Ooh, what do you get there?
The scallop carpaccio is really good. Their toro sashimi is really good.
Yeah, they have these shiso tempura rangoons that are delicious.
The black cod miso skewers are good.
We haven't had dessert there yet.
Well, you need to go back a fifth time.
Desserts, another martini, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand eating Ben & Jerry's when you're home alone. I totally get that. My husband travels a lot, and sometimes I'm like, it's grilled cheese night, it's cereal night, it's popcorn and an apple with peanut butter. Yep. But why is it important for you as a couple to take the extra time when you do to make a nice meal, even if it's just for the two of you?
Before we started dating, I would never cook at the house. I cannot muster the strength to cook myself anything interesting at all, because I don't get any thrill out of it.
Wait, you don't get any thrill out of it?
Not for cooking for myself. I look at everything from a critical standpoint. So the whole reason why I like to cook is to cook for other people. So now we cook at the house all the time. But before that, my fridge was just eggs, butter, and it's like leftover Taco Bell or Chinese food.
No! Yeah. That hurts my soul. And what about you, Melissa?
I can confirm that. I can confirm that. I used to cook for myself all the time. I actually used to cook for myself more than I cook now, because Bryce is like, he rolls in and we do all the things together. But I think that I just have to be in the mood to cook something, or be really craving something. This season of life has been super, super busy. So by the end of the workday, I'm like, okay, what's quick and easy? I think when we are able to set the time aside, it's just a fun bonding activity for us, and something that we both love. And it's like creating a cute little romanticized moment. Isn't that what life's all about?
So how do you manage who does what? Because you're a chef, so you're the boss at work. And then when you're cooking here, do you take one night and she takes one night? Do you give her tasks? What does that look like?
I need to be better about just letting her take the reins more, because she's a really fantastic cook. But sometimes I just attack, and I'm just blowing through all the knife cuts and getting things in the pan and all that other stuff. But we also realized that earlier on when we were cooking, we were, distracting each other while we were cooking and stuff like that, and drinking wine and all that stuff. But by the time we got to the grocery store, came home, cooked, and sat down, it'd be 10:30 at night. And we're like, all right, we gotta get the show on the road a little bit. Let me, you peel the garlic, I'll do this, you do this, I'll do that. And one of us will play bartender or sommelier, so.
Oh my gosh, you're having these fabulous dinners.
Yeah, we are. We actually have an iPhone shared note where we have all the dinners that we want to make. And I think we've blown through most of them, to be honest.
I was actually going to ask you, what's on your bucket list that you would like to cook?
We're talking about beef Wellington a lot lately for the holidays, because that feels like more like something you do for not just 2 people, but for 4 or 6 or 8. And my family normally does fondue for Christmas Eve as sort of our tradition. So we're going to get the little pots of oil and get the cheese and all that stuff. And that's actually the easiest meal ever, because you go and buy some steak and some shrimp and maybe some pork or whatever, or chicken, and you just cube everything up, make a few sauces, and that's it. That's the only prep you need to do. And you just cook it at the table, and it's really festive and fun. And I think I'm excited for her family to see that.
Ooh, that would be fun for like a Valentine's Day or...
Sometimes we'll do it for Valentine's Day too, like raclette and that kind of stuff in the fondue pot.
Okay, we're sitting in your home. It's beautiful in Tampa. What neighborhood is this considered? You're near Armature Works, for people who know where that is.
Yeah, Tampa Heights.
Tampa Heights. Okay, you've got this beautiful home. It's an older neighborhood, but a newer home, and your kitchen is amazing. Can you just tell me about your kitchen? Did you design it?
No, I bought this house. It was pretty much there, but I've told her a million times I'm like function over anything. If I could have built this house myself, there would have been no marble or anything like that. It would just be all stainless steel. And I'm sure she would have loathed that.
It would be a commercial kitchen.
Yeah.
It'd be a commercial kitchen with Taco Bell leftovers in the fridge.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Have you had many dinner parties here?
Yeah, we actually had one recently. It was really fun. We rented a bunch of things from, Salt Block Hospitality let us borrow a lot of things. Shout out to them. They're great. So we set up like a huge community table and tablescape, and it was around Thanksgiving time, a little bit before.
I think it was right before Halloween, actually.
October then.
It felt very fall festive.
But yeah, we had like 14 people here, and we did it. We did all the things.
It was a little stressful. We're like, next time, let's just put out some hors d'oeuvres, and one of us will be bartender and call it a day.
Yeah, that's good. What other tips do you have? Because it is stressful. Like, we had my son's soccer team over last weekend, which is just a bunch of 7-year-old boys and their parents and siblings. And my husband and I were racing around trying to get everything clean and make sure we had ice and all of that. And then after, you sort of do a debrief and figure out what worked and what didn't. So what lessons can you pass on to the rest of us about hosting a large gathering?
Oh, well, I would say anything that you can do a day ahead. You need to cut down on prep time the day of. And maybe that means like having hors d'oeuvres or appetizers that are chilled or room temp, so you're not fighting for oven space when you're thinking about, okay, like for us, we didn't course things out, but the way that everything kind of landed, because everyone also brought something, we were just like alternating things in and out of the oven, and even like batching a cocktail the day before so that you're not actively shaking cocktail by cocktail for every guest. And having the table even set the day before if you can, it just like really saves a lot of time the day of. And also having we did a little self-service bar, which was super helpful. So we had this like big ice chest and a bunch of different spirits that people could, mix their own drink if they wanted. And of course, wine. And that also alleviates your hosting duties. Like, so you're not running around like, oh, you have an empty glass. You know what I mean? There's 14 people here. You'll just be pouring drinks for people all night and not talking. So yeah, anything that you could do that's kind of self-service is also a win.
That's a good one, because you're making it seem like you're doing it for their convenience. I want you to have the exact drink that you want, as opposed to, I don't want to stand here all night mixing drinks for you.
Yeah, well, the key with that is like have one signature pre-batched cocktail so that it is really thoughtful and cute, and maybe like a little garnish station. And then the rest is like, okay, this is your playground, make your own drink, whatever you typically would have, etc.
That's good. So speaking of dinner parties, if you two could have another couple over for dinner, fictional or real, alive or no longer with us, who would you invite?
Now you're putting us in the spot, because there's gonna be people like, what about me? I don't know.
I know who I would have over. I would bring my grandmother, my grandma Connie back, and my grandpa back, and I would cook for them. Yeah, I would love for them to meet Bryce. Unfortunately, they never will.
Tell me about your grandma Connie.
Oh man, she was like the matriarch of the family growing up in upstate New York. She was like the one who we all went to her house for all of the major holidays, and she was like always cooking insane things, like all Italian food. She's like notorious for cooking a standing rib roast and it being so medium rare, it's probably like
It's like
still bleeding.
walking around.
It's still bleeding out. But yeah, I have a lot of my food memories with her and my extended family growing up all together. We were super close in proximity, so it was something that I got to have that, you know, I don't get to have anymore. So would like to recreate that moment and then have Bryce be part of it.
Oh, I love that.
That'd be great.
And then Bryce, who would you want to have?
Well, someone that I have no clue how they behave, but someone that would be pretty interesting that you could probably talk about for the rest of your life if you could rewind the clock or whatever like that. I think having Salvador Dali and his wife Gala would be a cool one because he was super into food and his dinner parties and all that stuff. I went to his house in Spain back in when, you know, it acts as a museum now, but I think he was pretty legendary for his dinner party antics and things like that. And I think that would be an interesting couple to have.
Oh, that's a good one. And you're pointing, you've got the book here, Dali, The Wines of Gala.
Yeah, that's, I think, Gala's favorite wines. A lot of his art was inspired by his wife, and then the other one is the food, like all these different tablescapes that he basically made with just like lobsters everywhere and all these like crazy nouveau cuisine, all these insane displays from like the 60s and stuff like that with the aspic and stuff like that. I think that would just be fun.
Yeah, you could definitely talk about that for the rest of your lives. And you've got the coffee table books here, and of course the Tampa Bay tie-in with the Dali Museum in St. Pete.
For sure.
It was so much fun talking to both of you. Is there anything else you would like to add?
I'm planning season 3 of Sunday Sauce. So if you are a chef, a restaurant owner, a mixologist, if you're working in the hospitality space in any capacity and you have a fun story to tell, I want to hear it.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was Bryce Bonsack, chef-owner of Rocca Italian Restaurant in Tampa Heights, and Melissa Santell, who wears many hats, including host of the podcast Sunday Sauce. Be sure to give it a follow. And while you've got your podcast app open, go ahead and leave a review for The Zest. It helps other Florida foodies to find us. I'm Dalia Colon. I produce The Zest with Andrew Lucas and Alexandria Ebron. The Zest is a production of WUSF. Copyright 2024, part of the NPR network.